David Lommen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dave.
How
good
are you
afternoon,
doing?
everyone.
All right? Feeling good?
Really, really good, except for this little cold I've got. Yeah.
Tell us about what we're chatting about today.
We're going to talk about stress and how it affects proper digestion, and then we might have a little bit about how to avoid a cold or at least reduce its effects.
Okay. Newcastle and the Hunter Valleys, 2NURFM 103.7, and it is Health and Wellbeing today with naturopath David Lommen. We're talking about stress affecting our digestion. How does that happen?
Well, basically, the brain is the body's really intelligent. So when it's under stress, it knows it doesn't need digestion, so it parks digestion. And instead it releases adrenaline and cortisols and makes the body ready for flight or fight. So because it's ready for fight or flight, the digestive system shuts down. All the energy goes to the extremities. It goes to the brain so the brain can think clearly and you can get out of any awkward situation. The difficulty is that we perceive stress which may not be stress. So we may have had stress in our childhood, in our teenage years, or in our relationship, and any stress will shut down digestion. And continual stress over time will just weaken our digestive system more and more.
And if you factor anxiety into that, does that make it even more confusing?
Well, yeah, because anxiety comes from a belief that something bad might happen in the future. And that's a stress. And then you can put in food as well. And if the food's wrong for the body, that's a stress.
What about people that find themselves in the situation of having what we call panic attacks?
Well, that's a huge stress, and the digestive system just shuts right down, along with sometimes cramping in the gut, instant diarrhea, or just seizing up. So it's really important to recognize that things which aren't real aren't really stressful, except they're learned responses due to disorganization of the body.
So if you think of it like that, that's almost putting your mind at war with the body, isn't it? Because the anxiety in that is in the mind, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly in the brain.
Yeah.
It's certainly in the brain. But it's triggered off by our fear of what might happen. And that's triggered off by our fear responses, usually from our childhood. So, and if we carry those forward without having dealt with them, then we're putting more and more stress on our digestive system.
So what can be done then? Say the digestive system has shut down. What do you do to turn that around?
Well, basically it's to make sure, because food can also stress the digestive system, so it's to make sure, first of all, that the food is right, and to make sure that if it was you, for instance, you would make sure that you were dealing with whatever the stresses were in a realistic way by letting them go. Because things that have happened in the past or things that may happen in the future aren't what we need to deal with right now. What we need to do right now is our life right now, rather than past events or future events, unless you're doing therapy. When you're doing therapy, deal with those things. But when you're living your normal life, bringing those things into your life constantly will just cause stress and shut down the digestive system.
Some might say it's easy to say that, but it's a lot harder to deal with than that.
It used to be more difficult to deal with it, but I believe there's been such advances now in the understanding of the gut-mind connection that it's relatively easy for a trained practitioner to help somebody let go of their stress from the past or stress that they're perceiving might happen in the future.
What are some of the symptoms that we get that says that the digestion system is on hold at the moment?
Well, can be irritable bowel syndrome, for instance. It can be bloating of the digestive system. There can be stomach pain, can be reflux or indigestion or heartburn. They're the major ones that people perceive. But also constipation, because constipation is about not letting go. Diarrhea, of course, is really getting with everybody. And it's just letting things go too fast. So it's all about balance for our body. And our body loves balance. So everything we can do to bring our body back to balance is going to help our digestive system and lessen the stress on our body.
Now, with the digestion system, if it's on hold or shut down, how quickly can we turn it around?
Very quickly.
It can be done that way?
Oh, very quickly. Usually you can get rid of IBS within a couple of weeks, if you know the right foods for the body, and if you're doing it naturopathically with the right supplements and the right enzymes. And the enzymes make a huge difference. And that's where it's really important for people to recognize that the importance of things like vegetable drinks and vegetable juices we've talked about recently, and having those in the diet as a part of the program of health that somebody's going into.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, coping with a cold. I really don't think you got your flu injection this year. That's evident.
I
at the
definitely
moment.
didn't get my flu injection this year.
What happened there? Why didn't you do that?
One thing, because I've never had a cold in the last 30 years.
It's important to
haven't
get
been
that.
able to beat within 2 days. So no matter how severe it's been,
Not tracking real well at the moment.
this
are you?
one I've got at the moment. Actually, I feel really good, but my voice is a bit husky.
How did you get this cold? Do you think is it passed on from
I
someone
mixed
else?
in with the wrong people.
Yeah.
No, I just let myself run down a bit, not going to bed early enough, those sort of things that happen, and working constantly for X amount of days has just been a long
How about helping
period of
the
time.
others out? The others that don't have it, help us out.
Well,
How
the
do
ones
we
that want
stop
to avoid it,
getting
which
a
is what
cold?
I ought to have done before I got this, was, and if anybody's got a pencil and pen handy, they can just write this down, but take a buffered vitamin C powder, including the bioflavonoids, half a teaspoon at least twice a day. That's a good move. Take astragalus liquid herb, 5 mils each morning with a fresh vegetable or vegetable drink. And number 3 is take 2 capsules of cod liver oil with breakfast each morning. Now that formula will usually prevent a cold because it protects the mucous membranes, which is what's affected by the cold virus. And if you protect the mucous membranes, the virus can't get in, you're safe. I didn't do that, so I was just going along my merry way thinking I was invulnerable, and here it is.
And I'm sitting here listening to the voice.
You are sitting there listening to
It's a
the voice
combination
with a
of
big grin on his
A bit
face.
crackly
everybody.
and a bit of nasal in there too. So,
oh, nasal's pretty good.
What about gargling? A little bit of something. Can you gargle something with that?
Well, you gargle the astragalus.
Yeah.
The astragalus, and I gargle the vitamin
Bit of salt
C
water.
when
What
I
about some
take it.
salt water? Is that no?
You could do the salt, but I'd much
Warm?
rather the potassium from the vegetable drinks and
You
the
think that would
vegetable
help?
juices. They do help.
Yeah.
Get those into the body. Potassium is much more important than the sodium.
What's the time frame? Do you think for getting a comeback from a cold?
About 2 days if you're really good at what you're doing with it, and it's not difficult, but you have to follow certain steps in order to come back that quickly.
Some people swear by a chicken soup, vegetable chicken soup.
Chicken soup
What's
is...
your thoughts on that?
Well, chicken soup is good. The interesting thing is that it needs to be the broth rather than the chicken in it, just the broth itself, which has a lot of good curative properties. And the other thing is to increase things like vitamin C, which Linus Pauling proved cut down the duration of a cold. And he won 2 Nobel Prizes, so I trust his wording. Take the astragalus liquid, or a thing called astragalus 8, or something else called echinacea, full-strength echinacea. It tastes horrible, but if you gargle with it, it does help.
How does it help?
Well, the herbs in there support the immune system. They boost our immune system. And by boosting the immune system, our own immune system rejects the cold virus. And that's the best way to do it.
We haven't heard much about astragalus. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, it's been used in China for hundreds and, well, if not thousands of years. It's a brilliant herb that supports the immune system. It's had effects in helping in cases of cancer. It's done a lot of good things for a lot of people, but particularly helping the immune system.
We've got a phone call for you right now. We're welcoming from Dora Creek. Is it Marie or Mari?
Marie.
Hello, Marie. How are you?
Hello,
I'm
Marie.
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good.
That's good. I have quite a serious question to ask you. I have just been diagnosed with MS,
Yes?
and they've also discovered that I have a thing called John Cunningham disease,
Right.
or virus as well. I'm really not happy with taking strong medication, that there really is no evidence that it's going to help me.
Yes?
I would much prefer to take things the natural way. Is that too dangerous to do that?
I don't believe so. There's a book by Rachel Breslow called Who Said So, in which she
Okay.
cured herself of MS.
Right?
Right, and there's a clip on TED, which is now on YouTube as well, by a lady called Kerry Wales, who's a doctor who also treated her own MS with nutrients and with a lot of vegetable drinks and juices.
Yes.
So she was in a zero gravity chair. She couldn't be touched. And 18 months later, she was riding a horse.
Oh.
So that's the difference between looking at things on a holistic way and doing something about it holistically, as opposed to just taking a medication and the body continues to deteriorate underneath.
Yes. Okay, well, that's pretty much all I needed to know.
That's some nice hope.
Now, I would also research the medication they're offering and see what the long-term effects of that are.
Yes, I have, and that is what I'm not very happy about.
Yeah, it's important that you look at things in a total perspective.
Yes.
Find out exactly what works best for your body by doing also some work with someone to help you tune into your body. Work with a kinesiologist, a naturopath, but get some help along with what you're facing from an experienced practitioner so that they can guide you in the best way to help your body, because your body's in strife and it's trying to tell you that it needs some support. So the more you can do to support it, the better for your long-term health.
Okay. All right, well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Marie.
It's Health and Wellbeing with naturopath David Lommen here, and we're talking about, with the cold, reduction.
We are. The important thing is that if you do get a cold, there are ways in which I believe you can reduce it. Now, one way is to take buffered vitamin C that we were talking about before to avoid the cold, but if you've got one, you need to take it more frequently and gargle with it. So every 2 hours, half a teaspoon of vitamin C powder with the bioflavonoids. And also take the astragalus liquid herbs or astragalus 8 or full-strength echinacea 3 times a day. Gargle and swallow and have fresh vegetable juice or vegetable drinks throughout the day with no other food. There's an old saying you may have heard, and it says, starve a cold, feed a fever. Now, what I believe that means is if you don't starve a cold, you will end up feeding a fever. So if you can cut it back early, you'll usually get out of it very easily. Take a couple of capsules of cod liver oil with your juice each morning and take enzymes all through the day. Give the cold nothing to live on and improve your own immune system, and most colds can be overcome in a day or two.
What would the cod liver oil do? Tell us about that.
It protects the mucous membranes. It has high levels of vitamin A in it and vitamin D in it, which actually protect the mucous membranes of the body, the vitamin A in particular. And that makes the membranes resistant to the virus. So that helps enormously.
You mentioned juice. What juice would you suggest?
I'd use the vegetable juices we were talking about before, carrot, because carrot has antiseptic qualities. And the spinach juice and the lettuce juice have other qualities in there as well. Also high levels of vitamin A, which protect the mucous membranes.
Now, what else did you have there you wanted to talk about today?
Well, the other thing is to go to bed early.
Yep.
So take enzymes right through the day. Go to bed early. Stop work. Rug up. Go to bed as early as you can. Don't read. Don't watch TV. Go to sleep. Sweat it out. The more you can sweat things out, the faster your recovery. I felt worse last night than I do this morning. I went out and I started on the program of moving through things and sweated a bit last night, and I felt much better this morning. All I've got less is the croaky voice at this stage. So, and just rest as much as you can. The other thing we were going to talk about is that for IBS and those other types of conditions where there's bloating and discomfort, it's important to take enzymes of the right kind for your body. And that can also help in conditions such as skin conditions, such as dermatitis, rashes, eczema, or even psoriasis can be helped with that. Because what it does, it takes a lot of pressure off the kidneys. And by eliminating the pressure on the liver and the kidneys, you allow the skin to breathe more, and the skin doesn't have to take up so much of the pressure.
That's about it for us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
well.
Dave.
Get well, get better.
I will be. See you later.